I often get the question, what is BlackBox? And honestly, that's kind of a difficult question to answer because it seems like a lot of people don't exactly know what BlackBox is or how to use it. So I get this question pretty frequently. The entire website in no way clearly defines what BlackBox is and what it does. And its introductory video explaining what it is just total fucking nonsense.
It doesn't make sense, but it's happening, and we all know it. So, what if we could embrace this new reality and set ourselves free?
What the fuck does that mean? It's just nothing but buzzwords. They're not selling you on, here's our service, here's an outline of what you get for that service. Instead, they're trying to sell you on a feeling. And that is something that multi-level marketing and scams do all the time. And their entire cover on their website does not clearly define anything about BlackBox. And all my red flags are up. I'm like, scam, scam, scam.
We are BlackBox creators. Join us and set yourself free.
BlackBox is a service in which you send them stock footage and then in turn they send it to multiple stock footage platforms. But in turn, BlackBox takes 15% of all of your profits indefinitely. So immediately right off the bat, I'm like, no, I will never do BlackBox because 15% is way too much money for me. There's more to it than that. There's actually more levels and more services that you can quote unquote buy from other users. And say you didn't want to do keywording and descriptions, you can actually get somebody else to do that for you.
Usually Facebook groups are somewhere you go for, questions but here you actually have to go to advertise, that you have a footage set, you're looking for a curator. The curator, you have to ask them, what their experience is, where they're from. You don't want to just choose anyone randomly.
That's right, you have to go on Facebook and randomly just meet people and interview them and then try to gauge whether or not they're trustworthy or somebody that you want to work with. But if you're a cinematographer and you don't do any post-production, you have the option of just uploading and sending just your raw footage and then have somebody else edit it, color grade it, master it, and then do the keywords and descriptions. But then you have to agree to have that editor and post-production person then take a huge amount of your profits.
You need to allocate 40% and then plus the 15% to BlackBox, so you're losing 55%. Have they done this before? What video editing software do they use? And you have to use your own cloud drive. BlackBox doesn't want you to upload raw footage to their servers. So, that's the frustrating part, is that I could cut the footage in one day, but now I've been waiting weeks.
And at that point, why don't you just hire somebody that you know, somebody local, somebody that you can trust, rather than somebody off the internet? Then I found out about what happens when your footage actually gets to a stock site. You see, I assumed that what BlackBox was doing was that it was creating a profile for you and then putting your footage in your profile. But that's not what's happening. Instead, what BlackBox does is it creates several BlackBox accounts, and then it just takes random footage from random people, and then it just throws it together in that account. So your footage is just thrown into what I like to call a bargain bin or a mass grave of just tons of random people's footage. You see, having your own branded profile with your own logo and all your footage put together is of paramount importance. And it's because of the freelancing opportunity. I get people directly contacting me and asking me for freelance all the time. I had one guy who contacted me and he said, hey, I love one of your clips and I want to pay you extra to then take it down off of all the stock sites because I don't want anybody else to be able to buy it. Another guy contacted me because he bought one of my Adobe After Effects packs, and then when he opened Adobe After Effects, he realized he had no idea what he was doing. So he just contacted me and he asked me to go ahead and put in the text that he wanted and the video that he wanted, then render it out, something that would take me like 10 minutes, and he paid me a couple $100. And since I didn't bust his balls about it and I just helped him out, he became a regular client. He does commercials all the time. So he'll just go somewhere, buy a random After Effects project, send me some text, and then all I have to do is render it out, and then boom, I get paid. So you can get regular, constant freelance income if you have all of your stock footage together in one portfolio. People are able to see what your quality of work looks like. They're able to see your collection, what you're capable of doing, and they're more likely to hire you. So with BlackBox, you lose that ability. You lose your branding. You lose your identity. Your footage is just thrown into a bargain bin of other people's stuff. So that's another reason I would never, ever use BlackBox, because the freelancing ability is very important to me. On one of the stock blogs, I was talking to one former BlackBox user who left because he claims that he would submit a bunch of content and then it wouldn't make it to all the stock footage sites. Apparently, they were not answering him on why his content is being rejected from certain sites, so he doesn't know how to fix the problem. So he got frustrated and he left BlackBox because he's like, I don't have control over my content. I submit it out and then I don't know what's happening to it and it's not getting to where it's supposed to go. Since I upload all of my stuff directly to the stock sites, I know exactly what's happening to it and why it's getting approved or rejected. If you're with BlackBox, they take your footage and upload it. So you lose that direct contact to know exactly what's happening to your footage and why it is or is not getting to a stock site. You see, on some of these blogs, every once in a while, somebody shows up and they say something stupid. They're like, hey, it seems like everybody's making a lot of money doing stock footage. And I want to make the same amount of money you do, but I don't want to have to do any work. Like, I don't want to have to do any keywording or descriptions. I hate that, but I just love playing with my camera. Is there a way that I can get paid the same amount as you, but not have to do any work? And sure enough, the very first few comments are, have you heard of BlackBox? BlackBox is the exciting new industry-shifting paradigm, the best tool in any filmmaker's belt. Meanwhile, at the same time, occasionally somebody joins one of these blogs and they say, hi, I'm an experienced photographer. I have owned my own photography business for 10 years and I'm looking to make the switch to stock. Does anybody have any suggestions? And nobody mentions BlackBox. That is really concerning to me. Same thing with the type of language that people are using when they describe BlackBox. And this just raises alarms in my head that say this is a scam. Something's wrong here based on just the way that people are talking about it. There was a discussion about BlackBox, and one of its users decided to say, here are my top 5 favorite stock sites: Pond5, Shutterstock, BlackBox, and Adobe Stock. So I'm like, wait a minute. BlackBox is those, though. Like, what BlackBox does is it sends your footage to those other sites. Have you been uploading all of your stock footage to BlackBox and those sites? And he says, yeah, absolutely, of course. You see, he was confused and he thought that BlackBox was actually a stock footage platform. But it's not. It's something else. It's just a middleman to those. So he's breaking the terms of service of both BlackBox and the stock footage platforms by uploading all of his footage twice, once on BlackBox and once on a personal account. And he doesn't even realize it. So the discussion on this blog got even worse, because after this started, other people started chiming in and saying, oh, I do that on purpose. You see, I have my BlackBox account and I have personal accounts on those sites, and I just upload duplicates to both. Double the money, woot woot. And then that got even worse because there's other people popping up with this new trend that I'm seeing that I hate. And I'm seeing it pop up everywhere, both with BlackBox users and normal stock footage producers. So it is this concept where you render your footage out as 4K, really, really poorly compressed MP4 files. So it's a really small file size. Then what you do is you rename it as MOV. Then you open up the metadata and then you change something in the metadata so it shows up as either QuickTime Photo JPEG or ProRes 422. So they're just blatantly defrauding the customer, because customers sometimes do care about the quality and the render of what they're purchasing. And then when somebody says how to do it and they're explaining, oh, I do this all the time, like 5 or 10 other people always show up and they're like, oh, I'm going to do that too. That sounds awesome. Now, why am I bringing this up? Why should you care at all? It's because of the way BlackBox works. Those BlackBox accounts, those mass graves or bargain bins. Let's say you're a BlackBox user and you're in the up and up. You're doing everything properly. But then your footage is just thrown in a bargain bin with other people's. So what if your footage is in the same bargain bin with somebody who's violating the terms of service by either having duplicate footage on personal accounts, or they have this bullshit MP4 metadata changed MOV crap? And then all of a sudden, a company like Pond5 is like, I'm going to put a strike on that account because we got a complaint. What if all of a sudden some BlackBox portfolios are getting so many strikes that eventually they get banned and taken down? And because your footage is just mixed in with other people's, there's a chance your footage could get banned with everybody else's. Now me, since I have a Pond5 account and a Shutterstock account, and I'm not mixing with anybody else, if I violate the terms of service and I get banned, it's my own damn fault. But if I'm with BlackBox, there's a chance that I could get banned because of what other people are doing, and that's completely unacceptable. So honestly, if you're on like a blog or a Facebook page and you see somebody admitting to doing all this crap, you should take a screen grab of that person's name and send it to BlackBox, because there's a chance that in the end, that could affect you and your income. So let's recap here. They take 15% or more indefinitely of all of your income. That's a deal breaker for me. You don't get a profile, and it's harder to get freelance work from stock footage. That's another deal breaker for me. And there's more risk associated with this because your footage is being mixed in with people who are just blatantly violating the rules and they're proud of it. Another deal breaker for me. So all I see is just you save a little bit of time uploading every once in a while and tagging footage, but then all these other massive problems that then you have to deal with. And I think by avoiding this mess, I saved myself a hell of a lot of trouble, because at the end of the day, I'm the only one in control of my content. I'm the only one I have to rely on. I am independent, and I am keeping all of the profit for myself. And that's the only way that I think that you can really make money doing this, if you want to build something that lasts and if you want to build something that's long term. And I guess that's the biggest question. If you're trying to get rich quick, it's not going to last. If you're trying to build a foundation, you got to treat it like a part-time job or full-time job. You have to put the work into it. You have to do real accounting. You have to keep track of your sales. You have to do all the work. And if you find yourself constantly saying, I don't want to do this, then just don't do it. Don't produce poorly made content and expect people to buy it and then get upset when they don't. People don't buy bad products. People buy products because they're good. So when I look at this whole mess, what I see is a bunch of people racing to cut you in line, and they fall face first on the ground because they're trying to get ahead by screwing other people over or cutting corners or trying to figure out how to not do the work. Everybody just wants to hear, how do you get rich quick? Are you tired of having a job? Are you tired of having a boss? Be your own boss. And in the end, like, that's kind of what BlackBox has become to me. Like, that's the image of BlackBox, is how do I get around doing the work? How do I get around doing it properly? I don't feel like I just want to play with my camera. I don't feel like I should have to do the parts I don't want to do. So let me know if you're a BlackBox user and you love it. Tell me why. And if you had a horror story, let us hear that too. We need to know what's good and what's bad about this if we're going to be taking it seriously moving forward. But for me, it's a mess I'd rather avoid. So if you're one of my subscribers or one of my viewers, I hope you enjoyed my work so far. And if you're curious to see what I'm producing in the future, stay tuned. Otherwise, we'll see you later.